Are we recording right now?
Yes.
I watched The Exorcist with the guy that wrote it and a bunch of nuns.
That's
Tell us more.
Yeah.
Basically,
This story was not at all pre-selected in advance of this episode.
It was just like a minute ago.
That's true.
Basically, they have an indoor pool in their house. The guy that wrote The Exorcist and his wife.
So
I
you
knew well.
and some nuns
Yeah.
sat down to watch the movie The Exorcist,
With the guy that wrote it.
and then you all got in the pool.
No, the pool was before. We
Oh,
all went
okay.
swimming.
Exorcist was after
In the Orange
pool
pool.
When it got
activities.
dark.
And then
Yes.
they made us a bunch of Lebanese food because he's Lebanese and it was really good food. And then he's like, all right, you guys want to watch The Exorcist? And we're all like, Exorcist. And we like all got, they have a big movie theater. Yeah, they have a big movie theater. And so we all just sat down and watched The Exorcist and he like explained it to us as we went.
Remind everyone what the name of the Exorcist guy is.
Bill Blatty. But
Bill
William
Blatty. He wrote the book.
Yep.
Exorcism was common in the early Christian period, through the 300s, and then gained popularity again, starting in the 13th century, with 1,000 years off in between, give or take. In the 16th century, with the rise of Protestantism, exorcism reached its greatest popularity. The word exorcism comes from the Greek exorkizin, which means to demand an oath. The devil was compelled to tell the truth in the name of God. This oath was essential to the next step, the interrogation in which the exorcist worked to get the demon's name. This practice waned, especially after the Salem witch trials, when exorcists concluded that the demon often lies about himself and those he associates with. Next came physical torture. This was a regular feature of exorcisms during the days of the Roman Empire, fell out of favor during the Middle Ages when judicial torture was banned, and then returned in the Renaissance. Exorcists argued that the soul could be purified through torture, that torture always extracted the truth, and that they were punishing the demon and not the person the demon occupied. Body and soul were intimately connected, and so disciplining the body would discipline the soul and drive out the devil. Finally, the exorcist would apply holy objects like the Eucharist, the priest's vestments, or holy relics like remnants of the true cross or a crucifix blessed by the Pope. My name is Rob C. Thompson. I am the Supreme Hierophant of our secret order of alchemical actors. I am joined this day for our Exorcism episode by our Grand Master, Olivia Litterall.
Hello.
How are things?
Well, I don't have a demon inside of me.
Awesome.
But I guess we don't know unless we try to exorcise me.
Get it out.
Well, we'll see how the night goes.
Riley?
You're not, you're
I'm not foaming at the mouth
No.
yet, or vomiting,
speaking in tongues.
or my head's not spinning
You
around.
seem pretty unpossessed.
I'll start floating above this chair in a minute, though.
Riley Claxton, our resident Catholic.
Hi there. Hey.
Aw.
Hey there.
There it is. Okay. Might be
So-
exercising someone later.
Maybe, I don't know.
Could happen.
From
And
my holy water.
oh, good.
Actually, I meant to, but I didn't.
Just in
We
case.
have a lot in our
You
house.
forgot.
We
It's
have it.
fine. I get
Every
it.
room has some. We
Well,
go,
this stage doubles as a church sometimes, so there might be some in the back.
We do have
Catholic
some
one,
No, it's
though.
not a Catholic church.
Jesus
No.
shots in the
We
back.
have Jesus shots. How about
yeah,
that?
but not the real ones.
And Lucy Bond, our neophyte,
Hello.
back in the saddle. It's been a little while.
It has been a couple months.
Well, we're excited to have you.
I know. Today I woke up and I was like, what am I going to do with my day off? And turns out I'm going to learn more about the occult.
Right.
Expand my knowledge.
What better?
And
Yeah.
the Christian occult, even better.
Yes.
We, the members.
Of
the secret order of alchemical actors,
do solemnly commit ourselves to a full and honest telling
of
the history of the occult as far as we know it.
You did a lot better that time,
Right?
Lucy.
Right?
Oh, nice.
Well, I've been listening.
There
so
you
I
go.
hear it.
Do you pause and go back sometimes?
We're saying
I did that today. Today I listened to the demon episode as some research, and I did go a
You go
couple
back,
times
yeah.
and practice.
You might be the first person to do that.
It's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's a
actually,
good move.
'cause everyone else just drowns.
Yeah, they just fall into it.
Damage.
Let's get to our 3 plugs.
Plug! Plug!
Bzz, bzz.
All right, now we're going to start with our merch which on our website you'll find is called, and I'm going to give credit to Brandon Walls here, one of our alchemical actors. It's called Occult Concessions.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, how about that? So Olivia's in charge of our merch operations.
Merch. I'm the merch queen. Come get your merch.
What kind of
from
merch?
me?
What kind of merch?
What kind
we
of
got?
Only t-shirts.
Right now we are
that's still cool.
exclusively a t-shirt business, but we are hoping to roll out some more items
But the
soon.
more merch we sell,
Right.
the more merch space we have
can
open.
have.
So we want to thank Mickey M, who beta tested our merch page
Yeah.
and was the first to order a shirt from us. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mickey. And he's earned the title Adeptus Beta for this. He requested it, but I was okay with it.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's turn to our patrons next. We've got Madeline HD, who thinks we should have more patrons. We couldn't agree more.
Wow.
Yeah, she's
about
right on
that?
it with that. Very grateful for Madeline. CJ, we have Trance, who found us last month. Thanks, Trance. Kaylee, we remind her of her weird mystic theater friends from school.
we are her
We
are her
mystic
weird
friends from school.
You found us.
That's so weird and niche.
That is literally exactly what we are.
What?
We've got Renee B, thank you very much. And Tyler J, Jake J, Dylan M, who wants to know why Olivia doesn't just go all in and call herself a pagan pure and simple.
What do I call myself?
You got lots of qualifiers.
Yeah, well, I'm pagan, but then when people are like, what about Satan? I feel like I have to, be like, caveat, Satanism, but also...
More of a footnote.
Yeah, it's like if you go into my works cited page,
Oh, yeah.
you'll really understand.
There you go, the end notes. All right, and final plug of the day, we want to plug our sources. We've got The Devil Within, Possession and Exorcism in the Christian West by Richard P. Levuck. Heresy, Magic, and Witchcraft in Early Modern Europe by Gary Waite. The Life of Saint Martin by Sulpicius Severus. Serious
That's
guy.
a nice name.
Well, he was St. Martin's friend. Because who else is going to write that down? And
Not
then
me.
the Annals of Bristol in the 18th century.
I'm sorry, what did you just say to me?
It's the Annals of Bristol in the 18th century. That's my
Language.
favorite. All right, close them up.
Plug!
All right, we're going to start with the Bible because this is Christian times
Oh,
and
that's
Riley's
a good,
here.
That's a
And
good
Riley's
place.
here.
Yeah, so we got to start with the Bible. Mark, for example, my favorite of the Bible. He distinguished between Jesus healing and Jesus casting out demons and named them as separate acts among the miracles he performed. Sort of sets us up for a culture of exorcism as a thing we can do in the Christian church. Exorcisms entailed healing, but not all healing necessarily entailed an exorcism. Some modern skeptics believe that Jesus' healings and exorcisms were all of psychosomatic nature. So by that I mean, for those of you, our listeners who have not been along the ride all the way, that they were psychological in nature and then they manifested physical symptoms. So the argument would be that, you thought that you were sick and then Jesus came by and all he did was relieve you of the idea that you were sick.
Psychosomatic leprosy.
Right. This is
Classic.
where it falls apart, right?
Yeah.
Classic.
In addition to leprosy, though, some of the things Jesus was up to curing was asthma and the croup, hydrophobia, insanity, and indigestion.
What a eclectic group.
It's like, that sounds like at the end of like a drug commercial.
May cause death.
And death. Which, death too.
Death and indigestion. We have to do some interpretation, right, Riley, to get these ailments out of the specific things Jesus
same
was
with
curing. But
the woman who bled for a while.
yeah, it's hard to tell exactly what was wrong with her.
Probably.
Something wasn't right, though.
Yeah,
Plug
probably.
to the Jesus episode.
Yeah.
It's a weird moment to mention plugs for the woman
We're
who was
talking about
bleeding.
Jesus, and we talked about that on
Talked
the
about
Jesus
the
episode.
The hemorrhaging woman.
Oh, that's true.
Riley talked about it.
Just the word plug threw me.
It's like her favorite.
I love the hemorrhaging woman.
People believed that demons could be passed from person to person or into an animal. The pigs, for example, the legion of demons cast into the pigs. A formula in the Talmud asks that a man's blindness pierce the eyeballs of his dog to heal it.
What in the hell? Wait, he had to stab his own dog's eyes to heal his blindness?
Now, like the spirit would move the
Oh,
blindness
I
into
thought
the...
you were saying to
That the
cure
dog was
himself.
blind.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the dog would catch the blindness and the guy would be good.
Well, that's
still
shitty.
Some...
PETA.
PETA.
Where are you at,
PETA's-
PETA?
PETA's
Where were you
not
when the
happy.
Talmud was written?
Where was PETA when the Talmud was written?
You dropped the ball on that one.
Hot take.
Instead, they have to go after Steve Irwin.
Right, of all people. Exorcism became a powerful conversion tool in the early church, with Jesus' followers casting out demons from their converts that they believed to be pagan deities. So we're sort of switching gears. We're not talking about demons proper, but the early disciples are trying to get rid of, fairies and gnomes and stuff who are in your body. So that's unpleasant. One of the most famous exorcists in early Christianity was Martin of Tours. He was born in Pannonia, which is now Hungary.
Oh.
It's a shame they didn't stick with Pannonia. That's
Yeah, I like
Much
that
better name than
Yeah.
Hungary. You know, that's how I always thought it was when I was little.
Hungary?
Yeah, because that's not how we spelled hungry.
Well, that could go a couple ways, though. Is Gary hung, or did we hang Gary?
Yo is never mind.
I think Gary is hung and he's just
Gary is
hanging.
hung.
So then that's a good place to be with Gary.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're talking about Martin, though, not Gary.
Okay.
And he lived from 316 to about 397. This episode's going to be 8 hours long if we keep on like this.
All right.
Shut myself off. No more Steve Irwin.
So he... No, don't bring him back now. So, Martin of Tours lived from 316 to about 397, roughly 200 years after Jesus' ministry. He joined the Roman army and converted to Christianity along with much of the army following the example sent by the Emperor Constantine, whose conversion basically transformed Christianity from the plucky little sect of Judaism into the world religion it is today. Go Constantine. As a soldier, Martin famously divided his cloak in two to share with a shivering beggar in Gaul. He founded his own wilderness order and reluctantly accepted the title of bishop afterwards. People had to come and beg him to leave the woods. Please leave the woods. We need a bishop, and you're so cool.
Because he gave someone his coat?
Well, that was part of the legend, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, half of it.
That seems like a really small detail to be just like...
No one else was willing to share.
Here's a
It's a
sharing
long time
guy.
ago.
Oh,
They have
okay.
to take what they can get.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is true.
You used to be
Sometimes it's
surprised.
half
We
a
have
coat.
some weird facts about saints because you just, especially from that long ago, you gotta
Right.
take what you can get. From anything you find, you gotta
There's not much history.
think about Saint Valentine, who's a classic. But we have the weird stuff that we think we know about him.
Yeah.
Weird.
Name one thing.
Okay. Well, the whole there's a lot actually. I'm trying to think. Him stepping on the heads of
Pagans.
but more heretics, which wouldn't be pagans. They'd be heretics are more like Christians that are teaching.
They've gone the wrong way.
Exactly. It's not like
You
Also
just
that-
went around kicking him in the head.
and that writing a letter to your Valentine. His Valentine was his goddaughter. So a lot of Catholics, we celebrate Valentine's Day by writing letters to our godchildren. Like I write one to my little brother every year because it's not a romantic person. His Valentine was his goddaughter.
So if
They
we
were from
celebrated St. Martin's Day, we'd all be cutting our coats in half.
prison. we would.
Yeah, there you go.
I might start doing
We would
that.
share. Yeah, we would share them,
I'll-
but
Well, I'm gonna bring you all.
poetic.
I'll bring you all pieces of cloth on St. Martin. Happy St. Martin's Day.
yeah, that sounds fun. We should
That
make
sounds
that a
like
thing.
it should be a thing, though,
Yeah, let's
already
do
for
that.
some reason.
We're
Doesn't
gonna
have to
get
be a
on
feast
this.
day thing.
All right. Again, 8-hour episode
God,
today.
this is so
listeners, just
bad.
so you know. All right. So Martin achieved a series of miracles in his lifetime. He raised several people from the dead. He confronted the devil on the road, and with his faith in Christ, expelled him when he tried to discourage the young monk. And he destroyed a pagan temple while the heathens looked on, protected by 2 angels. Martin was protected. The angels.
Not the pagans.
No, they're just watching. Olivia's writhing.
It's fine. I know what history
This
is.
is what the saints are up to. Okay, so destruction of non-Christian objects and places of worship was a theme for Martin. Sorry, Olivia, it's going to get worse.
No, I know.
There was apparently a monument that had been raised over the bodies of people believed to be martyrs somewhere in his bishopric. Yeah?
Bishopric?
Did I get that right?
That's a word?
Yeah, it's where your bishop
That
village.
We now
Yeah.
call it like a diocese.
Yeah.
Now.
But
I-
that's cooler.
I know. I agree.
We've broken up with all the good words. Pannonia, bishopric.
Bishop.
Martin prayed over the monument that the spirit of the dead man buried there should appear. The shade materialized, and Martin questioned it, learning that this person had not in fact been a Christian martyr, but rather a thief who had been beheaded for his crimes. People nearby did not see the shade as Martin did, but they heard the voice. Having ferreted out the truth, Martin had the altar destroyed. Loved to destroy things. Just his bag. And he exorcised demons. Described by his friend Sulpicius Severus in his hagiographic Life of St. Martin. Riley, quick definition, hagiography, go.
I actually couldn't tell you. That makes me sad.
Oh, it's a praising book that praises a saint.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
It's a hagiography.
I've never heard it either.
So it's always in service of praising.
Wow.
So if someone writes your hagiography, they would be writing about how awesome you are.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, there's no criticism of you in the course of a hagiography.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want one of those.
Yeah, we need to get on.
All right, that's
getting some
better
of
than a
those.
memoir.
Oh, Lucy's
Or
going to write yours.
biography.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Wow.
And then Olivia doth don the headphones and giveth to the people her podcasting.
The rustle of her jacket. You can hear the mic.
Don't at me.
All right, so let's get to some of these deeds of Martin. A man named Tetradius had a servant who was possessed by a demon, and he came to Martin for help, throwing himself at Martin's feet. And what follows now will be the story of Martin's 2 exorcisms.
Dear Bishop, you must help us. Our servant boy is demon-possessed. I can't get him to come out of the house, let alone here to you. Please, Martin, you must go into the house with me where the demoniac writhes. I beg you.
You know, Tetradius, that as a Christian I cannot visit the home of an unconverted heathen.
Oh, Martin, if you drive the demon out of the boy, I will convert. My whole house will become Christian from that moment forward.
Very well. I trust you are a man of your word. Come along, Tetradius.
And Martin went to the house and put his hand on the boy and cast the evil spirit out of him. Around the same time, Martin had an encounter with another demon. On crossing the threshold of a certain householder, he suddenly stopped.
Something is amiss. I perceive something in the courtyard.
He's got a
Not looking too good.
Something horrible. A demon.
What's a
There's a demon in your courtyard. Depart!
Depart? I'm not going anywhere. That's right, Martin. You found me, and now I possess this guy who was just walking through the courtyard minding his own business. Wrong place, wrong time, bucko. And it looks like this guy that I'm possessing was walking around with a box cutter. How do you like that? I've got a box cutter, and I'm gonna carve up every dude named Martin crosses my path. Nobody's getting through this courtyard today. How do you like that, Martin? Huh? Don't make me cut you.
Stand still, demon.
The demon was frozen in place.
Okay, so maybe I won't carve you up with my box cutter, but I still got some teeth in Ash. I'll bite you, Martin. I'll bite you and anyone who comes through close to this fine set of incisors.
Martin stuck his fingers in the possessed man's mouth.
Oh my God.
That's a strange thing to do.
If you possess any power, devour these.
Guess I'd rather not.
And then Severus says, rather cryptically, when he was compelled by punishments and tortures to flee out of the possessed body, while he had no power of escaping by the mouth, he was cast out by means of a deflection of the belly, leaving disgusting traces behind him. That's all a direct quote from Severus.
Like a
Vomiting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I looked up the word deflection because, yes, with my years of schooling, I had never seen this word before, and it means a flushing out.
So like vomiting.
So vomiting.
Or
Diarrhea?
It
That.
could have gone in.
Which
end is it?
We don't know. We
or
don't
like
know.
C-section?
did it come out of his nose?
Came out of his uterus, is what Riley's trying to say. Let's get on to the Protestant showing. Okay, so that's early Christianity. We'll put that behind us. Early Christianity believed, or held the belief, that anyone who believed in Christ could cast out demons. So that's anybody. You're just walking around believing in Christ, you can cast out demons. Yes, you can, and you can. However, when we get to the medieval world, there's going to be more rules. Not just anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Who can do it now, Riley?
Priests.
The priest, yeah.
Formal exorcism. But we have...
Oh, you have informal exorcism.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to wear a jacket and a tie.
It's casual
It's
affair.
casual. Relaxed, so if you don't get the demon, it's okay.
Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow.
It's not the rite of exorcism. But
Okay.
like, We can talk about it later, but
Well, I'd love to hear with our listeners. I would
yeah,
like to hear.
like,
So what
but,
is a
like,
casual exorcism?
I mean, like, so, like, by virtue of baptismal rite, by the priesthood given to you at baptismal rite, like, you are able to use basically anything else. You know, there's different types of exorcism prayers
Okay.
that we pray throughout the day, the use of holy water, the use of sacramentals. You can bless your own house. You can protect your own house. You can cast evil out of your house, out of, you know,
So when do we need a
family
priest?
members.
When are
When
we
there
not
is
up to
an
the task?
active possession,
Ah,
that the rite of exorcism needs to be performed to cast that.
when you can see the demon
out.
tap dancing in front of you, you got to call the priest.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just keeping your house clean,
Yeah.
you can do
Like,
that on your
my
own.
great-grandmother passed away a few weeks ago, and we had that holy water all around her. We could use by ourselves. We didn't need a priest there. Holy water, sacramentals, you know.
But
Well,
you'd have to be baptized, though. You couldn't just, like, believe.
But if we
No, you
put you
could.
back to the year
Oh, it still would
300,
count?
you could do that too.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
could have cast out demons in 300. But no more. It's the medieval period. So we're more on Riley's system here. Apparently you can clean up your house.
Yeah.
I bet that's possible in the medieval period, but probably you
Yeah.
needed the priest, actually. They really liked,
Or I don't know if it was much
Being
a part of.
involved.
they liked
Yeah.
to be involved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but also acts of
Kept 'em busy.
exorcism, I think,
Kept
are
'em
a
out of
little
trouble.
more. Acts of exorcism are a little more common, like in your kind of daily faith life. Now that maybe they weren't as much in the medieval
oh,
time.
that's
I mean,
interesting.
there's
Yeah, so people
definitely
would be
part
less
of our-
inclined to cleanse their house.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, like acts of exorcism are really. I mean, even just in the daily prayers we pray and
But
different
that's-
acts, it's
yeah.
very much part of our day-to-day faith life now.
So what was interesting about medieval exorcism, getting back to the 1200s and so, is that you as an exorcist, your personal moral virtue was tied to the success of your exorcism. So it was not just through Jesus. It was also through your faith and morality that you could.
So, like, the holier you
Yeah.
were, the more successful you were means the holier you are.
Yep, less holy, less success. So this made exorcism fairly unique among the sacraments. As Riley will tell you, your priest could be pretty amoral and your wedding will still count. Right? But your exorcism might not count. So, Protestants maintained the laity's ability to perform exorcisms. So when there were folks outside the church, it's true that anyone could do it. Before the year 1200, demoniacs generally suffered physical symptoms: convulsions, contortions, enhanced strength, sort of like if you're on angel dust or something. PCP.
Oh, I was going to say PCP.
Yeah, that's what we called it in the DARE program when I was in the 8th grade.
Angel, you called it angel dust?
So that's what the cop would come in.
'Cause he
and be
didn't wanna
like-
actually
he
say
would
the
name,
word.
No, he would name all the things. Angel dust, also known as PCP. So I would always hear them
I
together.
found my Dare t-shirt from back in the day a while ago.
They're kind of
They like sell them at like
Cool
Forever
looking
21 now.
t-shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like a trendy
Nancy
thing to
Reagan
wear.
was a very stylish woman. So, what I'm trying to say is it's like bath salts. Being possessed by a demon is like sniffing the bath salts. So, after 1200, scholastic study of demons led to demoniacs speaking in foreign tongues and prophesying, and exorcists began to focus on extracting information from the demon.
Yeah.
So there's a sort of correlation between us getting more interest in the demon. So as the scholar explores the topic, the priest knows more about it, and it actually changes the way people are possessed. The demon gets more vocal.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, so the rule about it now, too, is for exorcists during, they call the interrogation of the demon, and then draws the demon basically to tell the truth, which is, irritates the demon because, like we say, it's, it is a liar.
Right.
So it irritates the demon. But, that it should never be out of curiosity. That you're not just asking the demon questions because you're curious. It's always like it's for the purpose of the exorcism. That it should never be out of curiosity.
What if it's out of curiosity? What are you risking?
I don't know, actually. I think it's not like the exorcism will go wrong, but that then the intention isn't pure. That it becomes something selfish. Whereas the priest, it's not it's not about
Okay,
him.
like-
He's a
So how would they...
providing a service.
I guess I'm thinking about, like, Solomon.
Well,
Look
he
at
was a
that,
Jew.
Like, I know, but, like...
different rule. I mean, it's
a whole
not.
different
Yeah.
kind of
No,
way.
I guess
But it
I'm
is based
saying,
on
like-
Solomon in
Yeah.
part.
I mean, all
That's-
those parts of the.
Yeah, I guess
And-
I'm...
Yeah, and you did make the point, like, in the last episode that the more that you, like, get to know your demon, like, it gets to know you and that whole,
Yeah.
like, control thing.
Well, that's
Right.
the whole part of
Can
it
turn
too.
the
Is
tables.
very
Yeah.
like keeping that very that it's
so
it's the purpose of freeing the person, and it's we do glean things from the interrogations. There's this priest who just passed away recently, like 93, who was like the Vatican's like big guy exorcist. He's written a few books on like conversations that he's had with demons and Satan, like throughout his. It's really interesting, but that it was
Getting
never
it
for
out.
himself out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
I guess that's why I'm saying like
Yeah.
Solomon would be distasteful. It's like
Right.
in
Well, he was building the
comparison.
temple for God.
But still, I feel like you could
Yeah, he was
argue as
yeah.
kind
He
of
had
selfish reasons.
Personal stake.
Yeah, it feels that way when you read about Solomon, that he was definitely personally invested in controlling demons.
Yeah.
Like, he enjoyed that.
And that it shouldn't be about pride. That the point is that then pride isn't allowed. And that's the other thing, is that like
Right.
each diocese has an exorcist, a priest that has an exorcist, but you don't know who it is. It's a really weird thing, is because
Oh.
the point is that they don't, that like you can go to your parish priest and then he can
Hook
they
you
rule
up.
out all the other factors.
Oh, okay.
right, but then-
Before they call the exorcist.
Yes, yeah. But that the point is, but it's also, so it's fun. It's for like protection of the guy. Like if everyone knew like who that was, just
Yeah.
that. But also
the-
the pride part of it. Like it's not.
Yeah, it's
Like
not
an
like, "Oh, like,
executioner."
I'm the exorcist. Like,
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
people flocking to him and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that it's also a pride thing. That like this guy, again, that it's not for his own curiosity that he's interrogating, because it's not like, oh well, I got this answer and I got whatever. The point is that it's a service.
Right, because the
It's
priest
his
who's
gift
the
that he's
exorcist is
serving.
the cool priest. Right, so he shouldn't.
He's
I
a-
understand.
the spiritual
Yeah.
gift.
Right.
But that it shouldn't be about pride. That it's purely a service that he's giving, and
Feels
it's
very
nothing else.
Buddhist to me now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
To not put yourself before. The more you get wound up in your own ego, the further you get
That's
from
probably the
anything
whole
like
point of-
enlightenment.
is
Yeah.
not your amigo.
Yes, I believe Nancy Reagan made T-shirts to that effect as well. So
Been thinking about her recently.
historically, Catholic exorcists learned from exorcism manuals these details that we're talking about, and they conducted dialogues with the demons, as Riley's pointing out. Protestant exorcists, by contrast, had a strong distaste for ritual. That should come as no surprise. And they labeled all demoniacs as possessed by Satan, rather than fishing around for the names of particular demons. They were just like, it's
That's
Satan.
simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love to simplify.
We only knew sometimes it's Satan and sometimes it's not. They could.
Right,
Yeah.
so you could be Satan for a Catholic, but it could also be these other
sometimes
guys.
it is.
I feel like that's
Protestants
like
don't have to ask the
a
question.
big deal.
Well,
if
It
is
is
Satan.
Well, and
though,
it
right?
takes a while to pull it that it is him, because it's the whole
Right.
like boiling the demon down to the truth. It
He's
takes a
just
while,
the
and he
head
gets
honcho.
super. And whenever it is Satan, he gets super mad. You read the dialogues; he's like super pissed that now they know
They
it's
figured
him.
it out. Well, the Protestants just make that guess right away, so
They're like, we don't care who you are.
we're just
You're
going with
Satan.
Satan. Yeah, you're Satan. Huh, but I'm not-
Anything
yes,
that
you
might
are.
be ritual.
Yeah, just we're not ritual. You're Satan. So anyway, for a Protestant, speaking of that, they fasted and prayed without much fanfare, and were only concerned with the spiritual salvation from the devil's temptation. So they could like sit in a closet to do this, as opposed to the Catholic direct interaction with the demoniac. This is not to suggest that all Protestants avoided any sort of ritual, though. Riley, you'll like this. This guy, Johannes Bergerus of the Netherlands, was the most infamous of the Protestant exorcists and enraged both Catholics and Calvinists with his use of semi-magical elements in his cures, like wolf's eyes and pulverized human teeth.
That's some pagan shit.
Take thrice 3 teeth of a dead man's head, pulverize them and make a fumigation from them, and vomit. Take the witch's excrement and put it in one of your shoes, and put it on the other, wrong foot.
It just sounds like a grimoire.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why they didn't like him
Yeah.
on the Christian
That
side
makes
of things.
sense.
Yeah. Yep. They were like, you're a pagan.
Put it on the other wrong. What does that actually mean, though?
The other wrong foot, like not your, it's like take
Other
your left
wrong
foot.
foot,
When the other
left shoe,
wrong,
put it on your right foot.
When you start reading old
It's full of poop, though.
grimoire stuff,
but on the
So their wrong foot. Bergerus was an outlier among Protestants, whose brand revolved around a complete aversion to anything that even remotely resembled magic. During the War of Religion, after the rise of Protestantism across Europe, Catholics and Protestants competed over whose exorcisms were the most effective. Just like catcalling each other in the street, right? Protestants called the Catholics' exorcisms magical rather than religious. Unlike Bergerus's teeth and excrement, Catholics tended to utilize the Eucharist to drive out the devil. You need an implement, right? In France, the Eucharist was featured in exorcisms performed before large crowds.
I have a friend who's now a priest. When he was a seminarian, he was a part of an exorcism in Haiti
Ooh.
of a little like 10-year-old girl, and they used the Eucharist. They were doing like they're in a big community there, and this little girl, he said it
Zombie.
Zombie.
Yeah, it's one of the Haitian deities.
Yeah, it was one of their that
La Grande Zombie.
Yeah, and the 10-year-old girl was like foaming at the mouth and like writhing on the floor, and then he said that she started speaking Latin, and she was like, and this was like an uneducated girl, like an uneducated little girl who like spoke Creole, maybe a little French, and was speaking these insane Latin phrases as they were like, she was like writhing on the ground, but they used the Eucharist.
So you're telling me she was possessed by one of her own gods? So the Catholics are still
what
labeling pagan deities as demons?
What did he say? Or that it was something they were that like the town that they were in. I forget what he was talking about. That like something they were practicing. Regardless.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. In 1565, a married teenage girl named Nicole Aubry began experiencing Nicole Aubry. I'm trying to Frenchify it because she's a French girl.
Okay,
so she's a married teenage girl. She's experiencing physical torment after having a vision of her dead grandfather. She stopped eating and began speaking in a low voice, claiming to be possessed by her grandfather who had died without confessing. The family performed a series of penances to abate the grandfather's spirit, but to no avail. So they arranged for the Dominican priest, Pierre de la Motte, to exorcise her. The spirit confessed that it was not the ghost of the grandfather, but rather a demon.
Classic. This has always happened.
The girl went deaf, blind, and mute. She went deaf, blind, and mute. Yeah.
Wow.
And the demon reported inviting more demons into her body. So I guess she was deaf, blind, and mute except when the demon talked. The priest exorcised 28 of these demons, driving them to Protestant Geneva. Because that's where you're going to send your Catholic demons.
Bye.
Over to the Protestants in Geneva. Here, you guys.
You try to get rid of these
You're
demons.
so good at exorcisms.
Yeah.
So a couple of them still lingered, though. They brought in a Bishop Jean de Boer, but still the demon clung to her. They transferred her to Lyon, where they began a series of bizarre public exorcisms. Every day, they would parade Nicole through the streets to a scaffold where she would give a sermon in the person of Prince Beelzebub about how he was inspiring the Huguenots, who were the French Protestants, to abuse the French Catholics. So the Catholics sort of transformed her into this political tool where, in the voice of the devil, she was saying how she was encouraging the Protestants.
Wow.
Let's hear from Beelzebub.
Yeah, me and those Huguenots. Those Huguenots are wild and crazy. They know how to have a good time, let me tell you. We broke into Cathedral Notre Dame de Leon and took a communion wafer and cut it up and burned it to pieces. Pow! Right in the wafer. Take that, Catholics.
So that's what they literally accused people of, was cutting up the Catholic wafers. The Catholics were like, you're coming in and cutting up our wafers.
All the things.
People did it a lot during history, but not
Cutting up wafers?
but not the wafers anymore. Once it becomes a host, then it becomes a whole different deal. Because then you're going in and
I don't know which side we were on, consecrated or unconsecrated.
Yeah, because then it's a big, because once it's a consecrated host, because people will do that. That's why it's like.
Well, that was the intention, I think.
The intention, yeah.
But even
that's what they like, because people did it for a while, and so that's why like you have to receive it right away, so that you don't like take Jesus, like you don't like take him like anywhere. Like it's very like protective of that, because people would take it, and then remember like people trying to sell them online, and then like doing things, and that's also recent, but like throughout history of people like desecrating them and
get their hands on it. So this actually worked, though. Fun fact: some Huguenots were converted through these exercises. Particularly when the Bishop of Lyon held up a communion wafer and, using the wafer, managed to drive the last of her demons out. Others, of course, mocked the whole exercise as a farce and ridiculous. Catholic exorcisms were generally more effective than Protestant exorcisms, in part because more was done to the patient. So, Protestants tended to fast and pray in their little closet away from the actual victim of possession, whereas Catholics went through their whole routine and reinforced the patient's view that they were possessed, first of all, and then offered a tangible remedy. So just from a psychosomatic faith healing perspective, the Catholics have got a much more effective system. If you're sitting there writhing on the floor and I'm like, I'll be back in 3 days.
I must go to my closet.
Right. Yeah, as opposed to like, hovering over you and demanding to know the name and all these things.
It's the same thing as like what's it called? Churches. Why can't I think of
Like
where they like
the laying.
the laying
crazy
of the
ones,
hands and the what?
The faith, the charismatics.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a very
Charismatic
specific
Protestants, charismatic Catholics
type of
exist
church
as
I was
well.
trying to think of, but I don't know.
The ones on like YouTube.
Pentecostals.
There's like
do
Maybe
some of
that's what
this.
I'm thinking.
to
But-
some extent. Depends
Yeah,
on
it
the-
varies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it varies.
But it's like that, laying of hands, and if you just keep coming at someone eventually, I mean,
out goes the demon.
yeah,
You are healed. So, belief in exorcism also encouraged belief in possession, though. So it sort of fed itself. So there tended to be more Catholics who believed that they were possessed and in need of exorcism than Protestants. Protestants were not big on exorcism in the first place. So with a stronger culture of exorcism comes a stronger culture of possession. Exorcism had a more difficult life in England. The Church of England was very politically powerful and had the exorcists rounded up and imprisoned within a year. One of the most famous of the English exorcists was William Weston, who was responsible for healing some 500 demoniacs. Weston was imprisoned in 1586, moved to Wisbeck Castle in 1588, the Tower of London in 1599, and finally exiled to Spain. Other exorcists were not so lucky, they were just executed. Let's move on, on that lovely note, to the subject of demoniacs and medicine. So all possessions did not have natural medical causes, contrary to a belief among some scholars that has lasted for, at this point, a few hundred years. Through the medieval period, Christian scholars argued that the diseases caused by demons were epilepsy, melancholy, and hysteria, all psychological ailments. Olivia's not buying it.
well, hysteria,
Oh, yeah, right. Whenever that comes into play. I mean, it was a real thing that people experienced, but yeah, highly cultured.
women with hysteria.
It's the same is true today. Some mental illnesses continue to be culturally conditioned. Ancient Greeks believed that epilepsy was caused by the gods. So the idea of seizure or being seized referred to a demon or spirit, going back. But these seizures, which involved a loss of consciousness and control of the body, could not account for demoniacs who spoke in foreign languages and cursed sacred objects and prophesied.
Be a weird form of epilepsy.
Right,
Yeah.
very unusual.
my little brother's seizing again. He's speaking in
Right.
I don't know.
Latin.
Yeah,
He's
you're just
seizing.
Yelling at the crucifix. What's going on here? So,
can't speak English, but he can speak.
Latin at the
Latin.
crucifix.
Yeah.
These complex behaviors weren't possible during a seizure, to begin. And so, physicians turned to melancholy. So, okay, fine. We hear
They're
you,
just
Riley.
bummed out.
It's not a seizure, so it's melancholy. Yeah, you're just bummed. So this, for them, was the best possible explanation and the most popular diagnosis during the Renaissance craze. Melancholy ran the gamut of psychological symptoms from anxiety, fear, sadness, and fatigue to hallucination and delirium. Like everything could be melancholy. Melancholy was both physical and supernatural. The devil induced it by causing the demoniac's black bile to spread throughout the body and into the brain. We're in a time of humors where there are a series of fluids that hold things together and control your moods, and your mood influences your fluids too. It's a sort of two-way street. So if you allow yourself to indulge in anger, then too much, then your bile and stuff will move around and you'll become ill. So, yeah.
I'm
That's
going
the
to start
humor
using
theory.
melancholy as like
That's how I'm feeling
an
today.
excuse. Like, listen, I can't come to class today. I just a case of
Have
melancholy.
some of the melancholy.
Just
And they're like, we gotta call the
Melancholy.
priest.
While melancholy captured the strange expressions and behaviors of the possessed, it did not account for their more physical symptoms like seizures, which are happening, right? It's just they're accompanied by all this other stuff. So epilepsy and melancholy each captured different aspects of possession, but all alone, they failed to encompass the full picture. So they're both bad diagnoses. We really need some sort of melancholy epilepsy to make this work. So, in order to accomplish this, here we go, Olivia, hysteria. The diagnosis of hysteria actually goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks and was believed to come from the uterus because it got cold. You got a cold uterus. And how did you get a cold uterus, ladies?
You're not having babies.
Lack of activity, yeah. Letting that uterus sit fallow.
It's gotta always be at max capacity.
Yeah.
So what's the
Gotta
cure?
keep churning them out.
Yeah.
What's the cure, ladies, for a cold uterus?
Penis.
Yeah.
Yes!
I was literally gonna say dick, and I thought I couldn't. Damn
Yes,
it.
penis is fine. Penis is the more medical explanation. Penis, or sex, prevented or cured hysteria. And if it didn't, the male partner would anoint his penis in pleasant odors to coax the uterus back down. So the belief when the uterus got cold was that it like literally rose away from your birth canal.
It like
Yeah.
that's why like later
Yeah.
they had women on the sewing machines that would like do shit to like stimulate. You all heard about this?
Never mind.
Like a vibrator attached to a sewing machine?
Like a little bit, but not really. But it was
Ah.
the idea was that through like
That pedal was working a couple ways.
So
well,
it's
I don't
like-
think it was the pedal. No, it's not.
Lucy's
Anyway.
gestured in a way that we can't describe to our listeners. Okay, so where were we? The uterus. So hysteria was a kind of catch-all. Doctors came to understand that psychological problems could precipitate physical symptoms, and the list of physical symptoms was complete, like anything. So these psychological problems were the product of personal traumas that then manifested in the body. This is sounding very Freudy, right? Seizures, but also blindness or deafness or muteness or pain were all tied to past traumas. In the 1600s, hysteria was relocated from the uterus to the brain and the nervous system and labeled a neurological disease. Now it could explain both male and female possession. I could get a cold uterus. And it could be used as a strictly medical diagnosis to explain away the demon. You just have hysteria, not demons. The scholar Levick argues this explanation falls apart in the face of group possessions. So, it would happen that an entire church or an entire town could become possessed. We talked about the Mortzine episode, for example, back in our America series a long time ago now. So neither epilepsy, nor melancholy, nor hysteria are contagious. An entire community cannot experience the same trauma and then have it manifest in demonic possession. Mortzine is just one of many sites, though, where mass possessions took place. There was Matencourt, Paderborn, Belmont, all these different locations across Europe. So while the demoniacs did not share traumas, they did share religious beliefs and a shared conviction that they were possessed. Now we're really starting to understand this. We got to let go of all these medical diagnoses.
It's like the curse thing.
Go ahead.
I can't remember.
Hexdeath?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the
Lie,
two
yeah.
different curse.
If we don't believe in hoodoo, then we can't be the victim of a hoodoo curse, right? So we can't become possessed if we aren't in a culture that honors the existence of possession.
But what about people that don't think I mean,
Oh,
They-
you're
they-
saying like people that
Don't know that-
display but don't think that they're possessed.
yeah, like the people that they're not calling their priest saying I'm possessed, but that they're, I mean, people that aren't actively believing that they're possessed, but that
but
they're showing the
symptoms
signs
match
or
up.
they're yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk out of school a little bit. I would say that from my study of consciousness, the mind can manifest symptoms that of our belief
Mhm.
while denying
Yeah,
at the
Yeah.
same time.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's sort of, like when you fall in love with the wrong person, you
Yeah.
say, I don't like that person, but you do.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say that's a sort of
Yeah,
similar
yeah,
situation.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, if we are all in an environment where we believe in possession and somebody gets possessed, we could start to do a kind of aping, which makes us feel like we're possessed. In this way, it becomes contagious.
A little
Acting like
psychosomatic.
Wait,
Right,
what was
yeah.
that
Lots
word
of
you just
systematic.
aping?
we'll ape. We'll ape. Yeah, aping.
I don't know.
Mimicking.
Oh,
Like-
okay.
But
Monkey
monkey.
see, monkey,
monkey
do.
see, monkey. Yes,
Oh, okay.
APC, AP do. Yeah.
That's silly to say.
So if other people in the room are
That's silly.
possessed, then you start to feel like you might be possessed.
Right.
Right.
Because it's like I want what they're having. Like,
Right. Like if you're at a party and everyone starts taking their pants off, you're like, oh,
I guess I should
I
take
guess
it.
I should do that too. Yeah. So long as I guess it's that kind of party,
It's either that or leave.
right? So, and you don't want to leave when everyone's possessed.
No.
So you take your pants off. So this idea could work just as well outside of a group context with individuals performing their possessions according to what they've heard of others. So we can do it not just in the room with everybody, but we can hear about it. And it can shape the way we become possessed. Psychological symptoms are informed, at least in part, by the culture in which they take place. This is a theme we've sort of been touching on, but let's bring it on home. People exhibit the symptoms they believe they should exhibit, and this accounts for the shifts in demoniac's behavior over time. So, personally, based on my years of studying and teaching about the way human beings play and perform, I actually think there's another thing at work here. See how you guys feel about this. As I've said before, we as a species crave balance. In this instance, the imbalance is in the area of social control. If we don't have enough social control personally, we seek it out, like children who aren't disciplined, and act out in order to be reminded or reassured that there are boundaries. For the demoniacs, it's the opposite problem. There's too much social constraint and structure, particularly in the area of religion, and so they act out.
That makes sense.
You see? Yeah. So, my little kid, even now, is starting to look for the boundaries. And if I provide them, she'll be good and happy. But if I don't provide them, then she's going to lose her mind.
Yeah.
But if I make too many boundaries, you can only walk in this one corner of my house. You can't touch any of my stuff. Yeah, she's just going to start peeing all over everything. Yeah. So that's essentially what your possessed person is doing. They're my little Corinne, not allowed to leave the corner of the house, so they start throwing their diaper across the room.
Let me know that I'm not evil.
Yeah.
So if you want to see an example of this, visit New Orleans on Mardi Gras. You'll see a modern equivalent of acting out against social standards. People who just can't take their workaday lives and are trying to do anything to break that mold. It's a very natural impulse. What's important, I think, is that these people are acting out against what we might call the artificial strictures of their society. If we take them outside of their context, their religious context, they're not really violating any moral codes. They're barking and cursing and foaming at the mouth and tearing at their clothes, but they're not murdering and pillaging and destroying people's lives. I think that's important. These people are acting out, but they're acting out against the religion, blaspheming and cursing and ripping their clothes off and yelling in church.
Which is the power at the time.
But not hurting anyone. So somehow the demon doesn't want to smack anybody.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So there's an underlying moral compass that seems to remain intact while they buck at the human-made strictures of their upbringing, often inside, as I'm saying, the very churches that serve as the cornerstones of the control that they're living under. So here's an interesting caveat to this theory before we mull it over. Demonic possession and exorcism fell into decline in the 17th century as witch trials began to wind down, and some people, particularly the Germans, began to treat demoniacs as mentally ill rather than possessed. Oh, the Germans. But possession and exorcism did not go away. As Riley has been telling us, they're still happening right now. And there's an unbroken line of them going back to the period of decline. They have simply received less attention because with the decline of the witch hunts, they no longer resulted in trials, and no trials, no big show, nobody's watching. It's just happening in your house. Maybe the newspaper gets a phone call. Maybe not.
And I mean, now to this day, I think also the fact that it's part of kind of something supernatural. It's not taken seriously at all.
Right.
Like most things part of
When
part
as
of the supernatural.
then supernatural was like
Exactly. It's you believe, whereas now
people are like
They're not buying it, so it's even making less news. So in England in 1761, as an example, Molly and Dobby Giles, the daughters of an innkeeper, were visited by a violent and hostile spirit, later identified as the demon Malkai. Anybody know this guy?
Yeah, I've heard of the name.
Okay. At night, as the girls would start their evening prayers, the trouble would begin. Pins, nails, and glass would materialize to pinch and pierce their skin. They were choked and beaten, and mysterious wounds appeared on their bodies. They even lost whole pieces of flesh. Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah. Their family and other witnesses, a pharmacist named Durbin and a military officer, Major Drax. What a character that is. Like
Durbin
a Dickens
and Drax.
novel. Yeah, right? Here come Durbin and Drax from Molly and Dobby. These two characters actually saw the girls dragged around the house and tossed as high as 5 feet in the air. These were signs. What?
different stories.
Oh, okay. These signs were all external to the girls, what we might call poltergeist phenomena today. But internal signs also developed over time. The girls would bark, crow like roosters, fall into convulsions. One girl's tongue was pulled out and seemed to snap back down her throat like the rolling up of a window blind.
Oh, I don't like that.
One night, their bodies became so stiff that no one could bend them. And then, one at a time, they floated up to the ceiling while their sister remained on the floor, twitching. The girl's father, Richard Giles, was an innkeeper and had just started a delivery service. The girl's possession may have been caused by a business rival. During the course of the possession, a cart was stuck in the road and Richard Giles died. Mrs. Giles finally managed to cure the girls by consulting a healer. She was called the Cunning Woman of Bedminster.
Oh,
That's a
I'm
title.
trying to, yeah.
Right? There you go. So the Cunning Woman,
Of Bedminster.
right?
Please.
Right. Pardon me.
Thank you.
The CWB.
Yes.
She
Is that a channel? Sorry.
CWOB. She told Mrs. Giles what to do, but whatever it was, according to the Annals of Bristol, according to the Annals of Bristol in the 18th century, this word for word, it said this: modern delicacy would not permit the annals to disclose.
I can't comment on that. It's too easy.
No
I can't do it.
All right, but here's what's weird about this. The wars of religion were long over. The age of science and reason had dawned, and yet demonic possession kept going. Its form had changed in significant ways. The devil in this case refused to talk through the girls, but rather spoke to them from some disembodied location. The demon operated both inside and outside the victims. The signs of possession were concentrated beyond the girls' subjective internal space to the external world, where they might prove themselves to modernized witnesses disinclined to believe in demons. How bizarre that in the age of science and reason, suddenly we have these more objective signs appearing in the presence of the demoniac. External signs of demonic possession are not actually new in the 19th century. James I made it one of 4 categories of demonic activity in his treatise on the subject 200 years earlier. But its prominence in this case is, like I'm saying, very striking. Why is it suddenly so important? It's also interesting how the tale resolved, with a white-lit witch. What was it? The Cunning Woman of Bedminster.
Yeah.
This is a distinctly modern approach, an occult third way approach to the problem. This sort of magical figure as the benevolent solution to a terrible haunting is really only possible in a culture that has shifted from prosecuting magic to simply marginalizing it. And let's be honest, dismissing it to some extent, except on this podcast and others like it. In strange cases, strange forces are allowed to raise their heads up, although in other contexts, we're inclined to dismiss them as unlikely and unserious. So here we are, strange stuff is going on, we can call the Cunning Woman. But, if we're doing business in our business times, no cunning women need apply. This is business time for serious things.
Yeah.
Only unserious exorcism things are for cunning women of Bedminster.
Hysteria.
The presence of supernatural signs that cannot be explained away, even in the face of advanced empirical science, suggests that there may be a legitimate paranormal component to demonic possession. Whether or not that component is actually devils is, in my opinion, subject to a healthy share of doubt. There are certain correlations between the victims. They are frequently, but not always, teenagers, and frequently, but not always, female. Right?
Witches. It's the same thing as,
Yeah.
remember when magic and things happen with girls?
The phenomena of demonic possession seems to parallel the argument that Olivia's alluding to from our Poltergeist episode about the paranormal power of girls in the throes of puberty. Really, we did a whole series on that.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Lady magic.
Lady
That's
magic.
right.
The demonic activity inside and outside of the victim's body is an extension of the victim's own emotional state. This activity may be paranormal, but it may or may not be demonic. Who knows? The exorcist enters the picture as an answer to that victim's problems, both psychological and spiritual, or paranormal, depending on how you want to phrase it. Whether or not we agree with the exorcist belief system, they succeed in putting the demoniac's experience into a context in which it can be solved. In other words, they give labels in the form of named demons to the afflicted person's trouble and clear a solution in the form of God. Whether or not the problem is actually demons, the cure works if the afflicted believes. This is the theme we keep coming back to. If you believe, then you can achieve the cure. But you have to legitimately believe in an existential way, deep in your heart and soul. We can see this clearly in the case of Anna Ecklund of Erling, Iowa. Let's bring it on home to America. This is 1928. Ready for this?
Yes.
Because this is going to get a little dark. To give us some perspective, we're talking about demonic possession after the discovery of the theory of general relativity by Albert Einstein and in the midst of the development of quantum mechanics.
Great.
Right? So just like in the science world, we are hitting the pinnacle of science. Right?
Then you say
Height of science.
Satan.
Reason? Exorcism.
Right. And it's in Iowa, so it's not like we're like they've heard of all this science stuff in Iowa. Surely an educated public could easily debunk this nonsense. Surely no modern girl could believe that she could actually be possessed by creatures from hell. But the paranormal, as a consequence of the psychological, kept going into the 20th century, all the way from the year 300 in St. Martin. And not only in this case. For example, the exorcism of the pseudonymous Roland Doe, here we go, Riley, in Cottage City, Maryland, in 1949.
Stuck in traffic in Cottage City.
Inspiration for the book The Exorcist, written by
William Blatty.
There he is. But back to Anna, which is also a pseudonym, by the way. We use pseudonyms for 20th century demoniacs because, privacy.
Because, yeah.
Starting at the age of 14, Anna felt herself held
Imagine trying
back.
to get a job.
Right.
After, and they're like,
We're not that big.
Oh, we can get jobs, yeah. Riley's talking about the victims of exorcism.
Like she's saying,
Like,
imagine she's like at an interview or something.
yeah, and they're
Yeah,
like, oh.
You
I remember when
mentioned,
you were possessed in the newspaper. So starting at the age of 14, Anna felt herself held back from entering churches, and she became obsessed with sex, particularly what we'd call non-standard sexual acts. Olivia's hard. She's 14, Olivia.
What was she possibly? Never mind.
Non-standard acts. You heard me. Did not stutter. She was exorcised by help me out, the Capuchin monk?
A Capuchin.
Capuchin. His name was
Capuchins are cool.
Father... Oh, Riley likes these guys.
Capuchins are awesome. Capuchin nuns are so sick.
What
They're
makes
really
them
cool.
unique?
Their charism's super cool. They're interesting. Like their charism, like their spirituality and their mission. They're super cool.
Their charism.
Their charism. The word charism.
Uh-huh.
Never heard that.
That's charisma, right?
So it's your charism is your so your charism is like your spirituality, your specific way of living life. So there's like different orders of nuns, there's different orders of priests. There's also different orders. I'm part of Regnum Christi, which is a lay order, a lay movement. Yep. So they all have different charisms, different ways of spirituality. It's your charism. This is your spirituality. The way that it works for you. Can you give us a detail
about the Capuchins?
The Capuchins, they're very mission oriented. So they're not cloistered.
Okay.
Like you have cloistered.
They're out in the world.
nuns, yeah.
Okay. So Father Theophilus Reisinger is one such guy, one such monk. So he exorcises her, but too bad for him. The demons come back. The rumor about Anna's repossession. The sequel, part 2. So she's repossessed because her father Jacob, who may or may not have molested her, and her aunt Mina, who was also her father's mistress.
That's a lot.
There's a lot to unpack
lot
here.
of levels there.
We'll do that one more time. So we've got Anna.
Yep.
Anna.
Her dad Jacob might have molested her.
Question mark.
Her aunt Mina is sleeping with dad.
Aunt
Jacob.
Mina,
Is Aunt
mom's
Mina-
sister.
Mom's sister.
Not incestual.
Right? No. It's
Okay.
mom's sister.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
That was I was.
Unpacked.
I thought we were talking
consider
incest.
it. Consider it unpacked.
But let me tell you another thing about Mina.
Incest because of the dad. And the...
True.
Mina
So,
may
well,
or may
question mark,
not also be
incest?
some kind of witch character because she curses Anna.
Oh.
Or Anna believes that Mina curses her.
Damn.
Okay.
So the backstory is relatively sketchy, as you can tell, but the exorcism itself is well documented. During this second possession, Anna claimed to be occupied by a host of spirits.
Who has gathered in this body? We are Lucifer and Beelzebub. We are Judas Iscariot and Jacob the father and Mina, the aunt and mistress of Jacob. We ghosts are far worse than any of the others gathered here, for we have defiled and tainted all things holy in the name of cursing the child, Anna.
So there is also, though, a difference between evil spirits and demons. Like, you could still be a spirit, like a dead, like among the dead, right? But be an evil spirit and not be a demon. A demon was not a living person.
But if you're a bad spirit,
you can't possess people.
So Judas
you don't
really
get
shouldn't
lumped
be in
in
the
with
mix.
the demons.
I guess not. No.
That's
But
the
you would
surprise.
still. I guess you could still call a demon an evil spirit.
Well, do you have like a poltergeist? Is that like I guess we're getting too
Yeah,
technical,
but a dead like demons aren't dead people. Aren't dead souls. Like they're their own thing. But evil spirits are still present on Earth. They just don't really possess you, but they can
So
still
she's
appear
off
to you.
canon here
There's-
by
yeah.
claiming that Judas and Jacob and Mina
Yeah.
are all up in her body.
But they maybe were just like, there were some demons.
They were
and
there,
they were just
maybe.
like
Maybe they
there
were part of the
chilling,
party.
like seeing cows.
Yeah, like
go
you
down.
can see people. Like you can see.
Let's hear some more
They
about
appear
Anna.
to you.
She levitated. She leapt onto the wall above her door and stayed there in a crouched position, defying
Like Spider-Man?
gravity. Yes.
So that's a full
funny.
Spider-Man pose.
She peed buckets, even though she did not appear to take much in the way of food or drink. There's always gross stuff with exorcisms, right?
Yes.
She displayed unusual strength and needed to be held down by 6, and I love this phrase, athletic nuns. 6
like the
athletic
blue
nuns.
nuns.
Yeah, they're the nuns that compete in the Olympics.
There's these we call them the blue nuns because their name's super long.
Uh-huh.
But they're the athletic ones because a lot of their so they started and
Love it.
so they started their order. I was just with some of them today. Their order started in Argentina, and so their things was like hiking these insane mountains to
Oh,
these
yeah.
villages in Argentina, so they had to be super fit. So their thing was that their nuns had to be in really good shape. So now their nuns are all over in DC and everywhere, but they still have like a large chunk of their days exercise. They all play tennis. They're all like insane athletes because at any time they could be sent to some rural place and they have to be ready to
Right.
hike for days.
And if your body is a temple, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a nice
Anyway,
temple.
but they're super fit nuns. There's probably the blue nuns.
She vomited tobacco leaves and other leaves
how?
that looked like spices.
There might have been some oregano in there.
She predicted that Father...
sorry.
She predicted that Father Theophilus's friend, the local parish priest, Father Steger, would die in a car crash if he did not send the priests away who were exorcising the demons. And her body bloated to what appeared to be double its size and then shrunk down again.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
When like
Yeah, when she becomes
blueberry?
the blueberry.
Before, though.
But did something happen to that guy? Was she right?
Yeah.
Turned out he was okay.
because it sounds like she was like, if you don't
It's a threat.
if you don't stop exercising me,
Yeah, the demons are going to chase you down and car crash you. Father Theophilus brought Anna to a convent of Franciscan nuns where he successfully exorcised the demons in much the same way that exorcists have performed the rite going back thousands of years. And he rescued Anna.
They're gone, Father. I can feel it. They're all gone.
While performing the rite, Theophilus had a vision of the room bathed in flame and Beelzebub and Lucifer confined in the corner, staring at him and seething with rage. Does Father Theophilus' vision of Lucifer, with his cloven hooves and matted black hair and crown, that's how he saw him, reflect a genuine paranormal presence, though? Could it be a paranormal presence mediated through the monk's own religious framework that conjured the devil's trademark appearance? Right? It's a bit strange.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
something to ponder.
The report of Jacob and Mina's strange demonic curses seems unlikely, even if we hold open the possibility that genuine abuse rests at the heart of her affliction. But that still does not explain the supernatural feats she accomplished in the presence of many witnesses. Yet again, we see that exorcism and the paranormal are overlapping in unusual ways that make it difficult to dismiss them. It's the case that, to some extent, the culture is shaping the possession, but the possession itself is also, in some way, beyond mere culture, especially since it defies 1928 culture in all of its paranormalism, and in its whole existence, really. And that's it for me on exorcism.
I wonder if part of the reason that, like, you know, possession and demons and exorcism is still, like, prevalent is because instead of before it, like, I'm wondering if now, because it's more, not, like, more accepted, but like the supernatural aspect is more accepted,
coming
and
back.
people are into demons, they're into dark things. So I'm wondering if that.
The resurgence of occultism is in some sense spurring the possibility of possession. Because 1928 does put us well after Blavatsky and Britain and all of the sort of early American occultists. The occult revival's come and gone by 28.
I don't want to
Aleister
say
Crowley
it's
is a thing.
cool to be possessed now, but like
Yeah.
it would be, in comparison.
There's an interest.
There's definitely and also like atheism. I feel like kind of.
Speaking of Aleister
Makes
Crowley,
sense.
though, he's going to come up in the order of confessors here, which we've arrived at.
We get to talk about demons, Satan, and Crowley in
I
the
don't know
same
if you're
episode.
going to like this.
Oh, we're gonna fight.
We're going to see. It comes from our friend Emery, but we'll wait. We got to talk about our reviews first.
Emery.
We want to thank Klingon Dirty Talk.
Oh.
Yeah.
I want to thank you personally.
But Klingon with a K.
Klingon with a K. We've opened up the order of confessors. Klingon Dirty Talk likes the great info presented casually. That's us, right? And the production. Klingon Dirty Talk, he or she mentions the production. That means a lot to me, Klingon Dirty Talk, because I obsess over the production, as Olivia
Can
will tell
confirm,
you. Yeah.
100%.
Does this sound okay? Constantly saying. Nick name is taken, try again.
Wow.
All right. We have such clever listeners.
Honestly.
Nick Blackhearts Olivia.
I Blackheart you.
Also, Crystal Ball Candle Moon Witch Face Rock On Hand.
All right back at you, buddy.
Annie Velinovsky Morgan, who's actually local to us, finds us so spooky.
Aw.
Mickey Moore, who we've heard from a few times in a few episodes at this point now.
Hey, Mickey.
Got around to writing a review. Appreciates the research, genuine respect for all varieties of occult crafts. I love this one. We go from making Zazaz laugh to smacking Zazaz with some knowledge.
Yeah.
I just love that image.
Pizzazz?
That's pretty.
Zazaz, yeah. Zazaz is laughing, and we smack Zazaz with some knowledge.
Oh, Pizzazz is a person.
That's Zazaz.
Okay.
Our new friend Zazaz.
Cool. Hi, Pizzazz.
Yep.
I like it.
Dylan on Facebook has asked whether I really have a PhD. Yes, I do.
He
True
thinks
story.
we're all joking.
Right. And I'm actually publishing in the journal Literature and Theology. So let me say this, Dylan.
Give him your work site.
Dylan, he's my
No.
professor.
No, yeah, right?
Weird.
For reals. But not...
He grades my homework.
I don't want to overvalue the PhD, though, maybe is the point I would like to make here. Just because you have a PhD doesn't mean you're very good at things, like you know things or belong talking to people about them. Some people can be very smart and incapable of just making other people understand things, literally teaching, and have that PhD. Other people could have the PhD and have a fairly shallow understanding of their subject matter. It's entirely possible.
That's just college.
So that doesn't mean you get to have a podcast, or if you have a podcast doesn't mean you really understand. But the way I like to sort of balance myself is I do the podcast, so that's hopefully proof to at least the people who choose to listen to us that I'm capable of explaining things to people that are important and complicated. And then I publish with real academic journals, and that's proof to me that I know what I'm talking about, because real professional scholars who sit and think for a living have to vet my material. So the article that I have coming out now is actually about Emma Harding Britton, who we talked about in our very first series here. So I've been sitting on that research for quite a while. It takes a very long time to get published. So I started that article when we started this podcast.
Wow.
Right, and here we are. So, I can get to an audience and I can sort of discuss my theories and ideas with an audience much faster in the podcast than publishing as an academic. So,
It also reaches a different
yeah,
audience.
regular people get to
Yeah.
listen to this, which is important. Public
But don't
scholarship
read,
is very important.
Yeah.
Because, if you think about the wide world, let's go ahead and riff on this for a second, right? Scholars separate themselves from the world. And that's a detriment to the world, because the people who are doing all the talking are not always the people who have really thought deeply about these issues. So I think that we have a responsibility as those of us who are sitting in rooms thinking to make the time and get out there and find a way to communicate with people that connects with them, so that we don't just have these, angry voices screaming atheism or screaming fundamentalism, but real thoughtful people, scholars of religion, stepping into the conversation and saying, wait, we have some questions. Right? That's what the podcast is all about, I think. All right, Olivia.
Good job.
Oh God. Am I gonna be trigger warning?
I've been sitting on this for a while.
Oh no. No.
Our friend
Today's
Emery,
the day.
who is a scholar of things biblical,
Why do I feel like Emery and I have had tea before?
they have sent us a poem, and they'd like to have Olivia read the poem for us.
Oh my God.
So it's
I'm a little nervous.
I'm a little nervous.
it's called the Convert, in parentheses 100 years hence, and it is written by one of Olivia's favorite people, Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley. Olivia, I would like you to go ahead and read this rhyming poem for us, please.
All right.
Go
I
ahead.
already am like,
Get into
what
it.
is that word?
Just jump right in.
There met one eve in a silent glade a horrible man and a beautiful maid. Where are you going so meek and holy? I'm going to temple to worship Crowley. Crowley? Shut up.
It has to be Crowley.
Crowley. Is God then? How did you know? Why, it's Captain Fuller that told us so. And how do you know that Fuller was right? I'm afraid you're a wicked man. Good night.
It's amazing.
The word is holy, Grandmaster Olivia.
What did I say?
Holy.
Holy.
The word is holy, which rhymes with
Crowley.
Crowley.
Yeah, Crowley. That's
Right,
what she
Lucy's
I feel
putting
like
it
a lot
together.
of people pronounce it holy, so then it'd be Crowley.
They definitely don't pronounce it Howley.
Emery, I would like you to back me up in this, even though
Emery's
you wrote the
backing me
poem.
up. No, Emery
Okay.
didn't write the poem. Crowley wrote the poem about himself.
Crowley wrote that?
Crowley did.
He wrote a poem about himself? I mean, I'm
Crowley
not
wrote it. Yes,
surprised.
of course he did. He was an egomaniac.
Yeah, you're right.
So Emery found the poem and sent it to us, demonstrating that Crowley pronounced his own name
Don't
in a way
care.
that rhymes with holy.
I hear you, but he's also dead.
That's amazing.
But did he have a British accent? So maybe that.
No, what would
saying
it still wouldn't be Howley.
It's Crowley.
Okay.
I like Crowley better. It
So this
sounds a lot
article,
better.
by the way, that I'm publishing, I don't mean to keep plugging it because no one can read it because it's in a scholarly journal. So, but it's published with Oxford.
Don't say
You can JSTOR it, yeah, but not everyone can. So it's published with Oxford. So all of my spellings and stuff have been switched to British versions. So I seem super fancy and British. I didn't do it because I don't even know how to. But like, Cougar
Behavior.
characterizes has an S instead of a Z. Artifact is spelled with an E instead of an I, and like all the L words,
I didn't know that was a
marshaled and compelled, 2 L's. I'm way
It's
fancy.
still-
I'm fancy British man now.
It's still Crowley.
Crowley. So let's close it up, Olivia. Let's send it on home.
I hereby adjourn and declare closed this meeting of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors till such a time as we get together and do it again.
Let's talk about our voices on today's episode. We had Faith Berry doing our ladies, Anna and the Lady Demon. We had Nathan Bobitka joining us for the first time as Tetradius, and our friend Sean Priest, who we see most hear from a lot. He was doing Beelzebub and also Saint Martin.
Ironic.
Hunter Sheeler did the voice of Bergerus. Bergie.
Every time I see that word, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Do you see it
Like-
often?
Like Hannibal, like Hannibal
You're thinking about Bergamot?
Burger,
Hannibal
Burger.
Hannibal
Like I never
Burger.
know how to say.
Joining us around the circle, we had Lucy Bond, Neophyte. Welcome again. Good to have you. Riley Claxton, our resident Catholic. RC.
RC?
RC. All right.
Yeah.
She's-
Moving on.
Roman Catholic.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's also, I'm also
And
part of a
also-
movement called Regnum Christi.
And if
all
you were
the
Rosicrucian,
Wow,
You'd be
why is there
RC.
so many?
Like
Is
art-
this a conspiracy right now?
I think we might be. Maybe she did the Georgian those plaques in Georgia. Riley made those.
What?
Brother RC. Long-time listeners will know what the heck I'm talking about. Olivia, our Grand Master, who's left the building.
Hi, I am always going to say it's Crowley. And I love you, Emery, and I love that poem, and he's such a poetic man, but it's Crowley. It's Crowley.
She's very stubborn. My name is Rob. I am your Supreme Hierophant. We record at Chesapeake College's Scenic Campus at the Scenic Academy Theater on the scenic Eastern Shore, where all things are scenic. We'll join you next episode where we coming home to America for an episode on American healers. We'll be talking Mary Baker, Eddie and Phineas Parkhurst, Quimby, and other people with 3 names.
Only 3 named people are allowed to heal in America.
Biblical times, 1 named people. America, 19th century, 3 names.
But if someone has 2 first names, don't trust them.
Emma Harding Britton, Andrew Jackson Davis. Okay, we'll catch you next time. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky.
Bye.
Bill Blatty, but
Bill
William
Blatty. He wrote the book.
Yep, William Blatty.
Based on, well, he's from Maryland. The Exorcist takes place, the original story was from, Silver Spring? Maybe Bethesda.
I think
Silver Spring.
It's a young man. Little boy.
Well, the little boy, yeah, I thought it was St. Louis. It was St. Louis, Missouri, that happened.
No, it was here. The little boy.
The little boy? What's his name? Why did I think it was in St. Louis? With the Jesuits.
It's down here somewhere.
St. Louis.
Wait, you're saving us
to
there.
the fair. I don't know. I'm trying to...
No, it was definitely Maryland.
Okay, yeah, I think that's right, too. There must be another story from St. Louis.
Another exorcist.
Another exorcist.
Well, I'm sure there must be.
Anyway, yeah, no, he wrote it based on that, but it's a little girl, obviously, and
Right.
In the movie, they
Yeah.
changed it.
Why? Did he ever tell you?
I don't know actually. But he has like there's all of the notes from like the Jesuit priests from the whole like original like the actual story, and he had all of that of like their original notes and like all
that's
this
cool.
stuff. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. I don't know if we'll use all that. Wow. Probably that point where Olivia just had to sing because I was looking for the kid's name and
Just talking about St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Could it have been in St. Louis? St.
Something
Louis.
happened in St. Louis.
I think
The
things
fair.
happen every day.
I believe that Judy Garland met someone there.
That's the same. Get out of here. It took me a second.
See? You would get there. He had a Christmas song and everything.
I haven't
Okay.
seen that movie in a long time.
Right?